What's up, legends, and welcome back to another Unmatched Slings and Arrows first impressions video. Today I'm joined by my co-pilot, Rosie, who might be asleep. She's going to be very unhelpful this episode. Today we're talking about the Wayward Sisters. In case you are unfamiliar with how my first impressions videos work, basically the format is a tool I use to crack open the walnut of a new fighter and talk about what I think about them after a handful of plays as and against them, and what I think about the new character that is joining the ecosystem that is Unmatched. See, I'm an ecologist, you see. Anyways, today we're talking about the Wayward Sisters, the fourth and final fighter from the new Slings and Arrows set. There will be a link at the top of the description, so you can go to Restoration Games' website and purchase the set for yourself. I highly recommend it. It is an absolute doozy. So far, all the fighters I've looked at have been super interesting, and this fighter is no exception. Let's talk about the Wayward Sisters. So, this is another Raptors type hero, where there are actually 3 of these sisters, as you can see on the card back. 1, 2, 3. The Wayward Sisters, plural. They are all melee, and they have 6 health each, move value of 2, which is a little frightening at first, but then you remember there's 3 of them, so they can kind of cover much more of the board than you would think, and they are actually surprisingly tanky, so I do not think the 6 health is necessarily a problem at all. Let's talk about their ability. It says Bubbling Brew. Your cards go into your cauldron instead of your discard pile. After you attack, you may cast 1 spell that you have the ingredients for. If you do, discard all the cards in your cauldron. So basically, you're going to have this big old thing of cardboard next to the board. And all the cards that you use, schemes, or attacks, or blocks, they all will go to the cauldron instead of your discard pile. So you have this separate zone of play to interact with. And you have this spell book on the cauldron. There are 3 different symbols that will be on your card, much like little red symbols. And basically, after you attack, which is the crucial timing there is attack only, you may cast 1 spell that you have the matching symbols for of the cards in your cauldron. And after you cast a spell, you wipe the entire cauldron. So basically, how this play pattern turns out is you are going to try to play cards that line up with these ingredient symbols, and then after you attack, spend them, cast them as spells, and get one of the following effects. Because all the cards go away when you cast a spell, you're gonna want to kind of not get to like 6 or 7 cards or more in your cauldron. You want to keep it like tight 3 or 4, so that way you can cast more spells throughout the game. Although there are certain exceptions to that rule. Looking at the spells, we have Snick and Bet. Draw 1 card, one of your fighters recovers 1 health. So immediately built-in ability health gain is something very powerful. And I love card draw just because being able to attack and then draw a card. This character loves cards because they need the cards to cast spells. So being able to have more cards in your hand, more options, is very important for them. Bet, and I believe this is a newt leg, or toe, or foot, whatever, something like that. Move any fighter up to 3 spaces. This will be very good for disrupting enemy positioning, things like that. The leg and the bet deal 1 damage to a fighter that shares a zone with any of your fighters. Built-in ping damage to an ability is fantastic. This gives them a lot of flexibility when dealing with 1 health sidekicks, and just pings in general are very, very good. So this is definitely a very strong spell. And lastly, all 3, put them together, gain 1 action, which is you attack, gain an action, Love it. Love it. Let's just take a quick look at any specific rules. Lizard's leg. That's what it is. And whatever you would place an action card in your discard pile, played, boost, discarded, always goes in the cauldron. And it's only after you attack. You can only cast one spell after each attack, even if you have ingredients in your cauldron to cast more. And then after the spell's effect, place all cards into your cauldron, even ones you did not use. You may use a card you just attacked with as an ingredient in your spell. That part, very important. And just like the Raptors, the Wayward Sisters are 3 heroes. Each sister has a unique miniature and her own health dial. They actually did a really good job making it clear which sister was which. They are in slightly less discernible poses than the Raptors, but they all have different poses. They all have different iconography on the back of their cloaks. Oh, speaking of which, I should have worn my cloak for this video. Anyways, I was really quickly checking to see if it was on the ground next to me, but it's not. Curse me for putting my clothes away. When a sister is defeated, remove her from the board like any other fighter. However, you only lose when all of your sisters are defeated. And all of your action cards can be played by any sister. They're all any's. If something affects your hero, you choose which sister it affects, which is a discernible difference from how this ruling used to be. And I'm glad that they changed it because multi-hero heroes needed a little bit of love. So yeah, I believe cards like Confirmed Suspicion and Stolen Memories no longer hit all 3 sisters. Fantastic. All right, let's talk about some of their cards. First one up is Double Double, which, if you saw me, Zero, and Darkblade's Cauldron art reveal video, basically we revealed these 3 cards in a very cryptic and cult-like manner, and I want to say these make a triptych. I can't remember if that's the right word or if that even is a word, but you put the cards together, they make one big piece of art. Fantastic. This sister is obviously the best, but anyways, Double Double Toil and Trouble. 3 value attack, boost value 2, 3 copies. During combat, increase the value of this card by +1 for each different ingredient symbol in your cauldron. There are 3 different ingredients, and it says different ingredient symbol. So it's not just the number of ingredients you have. It's how many, do you have a snake? Do you have a lizard? Do you have a bat? If you have all 3, this card will be a 6, which will be very powerful. Slightly telegraphed, but still, it's a 6. Even if you're attacking and it's a 5, that's still pretty good. The one thing I would say about this card is it kind of wastes a card when you're casting spells, because if you already have all 3 ingredients in your cauldron, you're attacking with it as a 6, it goes into the cauldron, so you have 4 cards. And then if you cast a spell, you're either wasting an ingredient with the action or wasting 2 with these. But still, you're swinging for 6, slightly predictably, albeit, but still a very, very powerful, very reliable attack card. The next card is All-Seeing Familiar, 4 value attack. It's got the lizard, 2 value boost, 2 copies immediately. Return a card in your discard pile to your cauldron. After combat, if you won the combat, look at the top card of your deck and put it into your hand or your cauldron. So I see this as a very flexible spellcaster, because just from an empty cauldron, you will be able to cast either of the middle 2 spells. Because this has a lizard, immediately you could return a snake or a bat to your cauldron. And then after combat, because it's an attack, after you attack, you could cast either of these spells. Alternatively, if you won the combat, you could put the top card of your deck into your cauldron, which could let you cast the gain an action spell. You also have ways to gain an action spell if like you recurred a bat and the top card was a snake. You also have ways to look at the top card of your deck and make this a little bit more reliable, but there's only 2 copies of this and 2 copies of the top card, peeking card that I'm referencing, so I don't know necessarily how reliable that is of a strategy, or if you want to risk burning a card and overlapping in ingredients, but 4 value attack that returns a card to your cauldron, gives you a free ingredient. Definitely not the worst thing in the world. Next card is Hurly Burly. Just a magnificent poses. Just, yeah. It is a 3 value attack with a snick, a boost value of 1, 3 copies. During combat, reveal the top card of your deck. Your opponent chooses 1. Put that card into your hand, so card draw, essentially. Put that card in your cauldron and add its boost value to this card's value. I'm not the biggest fan of this card, just because whenever your opponent gets a choice, like this or legalese, something like that, they're always going to choose what's worst for you. And if it's a big high boost value, like a 3, they're just going to say, draw the card. And if it's like a low boost value, that they're like, maybe you draw another boost 1 card, so you're only attacking for 4 and they're blocking for 4, they'll just say, sure, put that card in your cauldron. I'm not going to take any more damage from its boost value, so it doesn't matter. Situationally, they will choose what's best for them, which will be slightly unfortunate for you, but 3 value attack, draw a card, not terrible. 3 value attack, blind boost, essentially, that gets you 1 step closer to casting an ingredient. Not necessarily the worst thing in the world. It's just not necessarily going to be the thing that you want it to be when you play it. Not 100% sold on this card, but it does have the Sneck, which is part of the healing and card draw spell, so I don't hate it. The next is a block card, Unnatural Remedy. 1 value, defense only, Sneck symbol, boost value of 2, 2 copies. Immediately! Discard up to 3 cards from your cauldron. For each one, choose a fighter to recover 1 health. You may choose the same fighter more than once. So this is kind of the insurance mechanic for when you stack your cauldron up. If you have a bunch of extra cards in your cauldron, you can use this card and discard any duplicate ingredients that you don't need. You can discard up to 3 of them, and you can choose a fighter to recover 3 health, or choose up to 3 fighters to recover 1 health multiple times. Love that you can split it up, because if all of your sisters are at 5, you could still potentially use this, heal them all back up to 6. You can use this in co-op or adventures, or 2v2 to heal a teammate. It is a 1 value block, so I think the idea here is that when one of your sisters gets weakened, you go hide her in the back, put one of the healthy sisters up front. They take this hit, which is, it's only a 1 value block, but the other sister gets healed, kind of like Chosen Fate from Cloak and Dagger, except this is a block card and not a scheme. The healing is immediately too, which means if your sister is on the brink of dying at 1 health, you can still play this card and heal her potentially, and maybe heal over whatever your opponent's going to hit you with and save her from death. Decently flexible card. It still is only a 1 value block though, keep that in mind. But if you're able to protect your sisters and keep them alive for longer, that is typically how multi-hero heroes overcome tough odds. Because if one of them goes down early, it's not like losing a raptor early, but you definitely feel it with some of your other cards. The next card is Toil and Trouble, the middle triptych card. It's a 2 value block. boost value 3, Sneck symbol, 3 copies. During combat, increase the value of this card by +1 for each different ingredient symbol in your cauldron. So, like double, same kind of scaling, except this starts at 2, not 3. So it's a 3, 4, or a 5 based on the amount of ingredients you have. And because you're blocking with this, you're not immediately turning around and attacking, which means you could potentially like waste a resource. If you have all 3 symbols in the cauldron, you block with this. Sure, it's a 5. It goes into the cauldron. And now the next time you attack, you can cast a spell, but then you're adding another ingredient into the cauldron. That's 5 ingredients. So should you actually like be that analytical about wasting ingredients / resources? I would not on your first play. This is a decently complex character. Most of the characters in this set are. It's not even a critique, it's just a statement about this set, is that it's not super beginner friendly, just because the complexity of all of the characters is almost at an all-time high for Unmatched. But that is not a bad thing. Like I said in one of the other videos, there's 50 fighters in the game. It's been around for 5 years, and it has Shakespeare on the cover. So if you are a beginner going into this set, you're probably not going to have the best time to begin with. But I would just say, don't play like that on your first time playing the Sisters. Just try to sequence things so that you can cast a spell like every turn, maybe. Because I definitely think I had so much analysis paralysis the first time I played this character. And the first time I played this character was in Adventures. So it's like a slightly less intense setting, but I was still like caught up in not necessarily being sure on how to order my cards. Because while it is similar to Little Red, it is not as straightforward. Because Little Red is like, oh, if I play a matching symbol, I get this effect. This is like, I need to play 2 matching symbols, but like one of them has to be on the block I play, one of them has to be on the attack I play, and then I can cast it. It can kind of be a headache a little bit, but I believe this character is very rewarding when you figure them out. And the last card is Pricking of My Thumbs. The last card in this row. It's a 2-value, block-only Sneck. Thumbs down. 3 of them. I want to turn that into like a reaction or something. Someone says something stupid, just prick my thumbs on your silly statement. 1 value boost, 2 copies. After combat, deal damage to the opposing fighter equal to the amount of combat damage your fighter took. So it's like, oh, my mind is blooded. Skin like titanium. I was like, it's not Grendel, it's not Mouth. There's another card that has that effect. Skin like titanium, but for Sisters, which is a little risky to only block for 2 on a character with 6 health. But I believe in my interview with the deck designer, Jason Hager, who was a runner-up in the 2020 Restoration Games Unmatched deck design contest, he said a lot of times you kind of have to like swing big into a low health Sister to like guarantee the kill. And this is a great way to do that, because if your Sister has 1 health, you play this, they attack with like a 6, you're still taking 4 damage, even though you only have 1 health. So a great way to use like weakened Sisters or full health Sisters, if you think they're going to swing big into you, as use your health as a resource, basically convert the damage you take to hit back on your opponent. Phenomenal card. The next card we have is the Stars Align, aka Jaws of the Illuminati. 0 value versatile lizard, 1 value boost, 3 copies. During combat, the value of this card is equal to the number of different zones all of your fighters are in. Let's go. Another card that rewards good positioning. I routinely was able to get this to like a 5 or a 6 pretty consistently, especially at the beginning of the game. On the Globe Theater, the map that the set comes with. because that map has a decent amount of tri-zone spaces. There will be certain maps where this does not really get higher than a 4, but if you kind of divide and conquer, spread your sisters out, you can threaten this right from the get-go, and it's a little bit scary because they have to respect it on an attack. This can be one of the largest attacks in your deck, which I love. And worst case scenario, you can like value block with it as like a 4 or a 5 pretty consistently, if not a 6. I don't even know if you can get it to a 7, but you probably can based on certain maps. Anyways, awesome card. This is one of the reasons why you want to keep your sisters alive for as long as possible, because as soon as you lose a body, this card gets a lot harder to get above 4, I'd say. The next card is Ward. If only I had another hand. If only she was available to help me. My assistant. What a lazy dog. All right. Ward. 3 value versatile bat. 2 value boost, 3 copies. After combat, place the opposing fighter in any space in your fighter's zone. I see this as a phenomenal block card, especially against ranged characters. You can kind of just reposition them. You could set up a surprise pit. It also works for melee fighters as well. You can kind of just like reorient them, put them on like the other side of the fighter that they're attacking, and now the positioning is a lot better for you. 3 copies. I think this is going to be a really solid card, especially against ranged fighters, because you can bring the enemy closer to you and just make it easier for you to attack them. Yeah. The next card is Curious Familiar. 2 value, versatile, bat, 3 value boost, 2 copies. After combat, return a card in your cauldron to your hand. So this is like Cauldron Hardened, Battle Familiar. I don't know which one of those sounds better, but this is like very specific timing recursion, because you can only recur a card that you kind of like just played that's still in the cauldron. Although I guess if you wanted to recur a very specific card, you could just not cast a spell. Just build up a big old cauldron. That way when you play this card, you have a lot of choices. I don't really think that's the best way to do it. I think you kind of have to go in without a specific idea of what card you want to get back and just be pretty flexible. And of course, if you play Curious Familiar and Curious Familiar, it can recur itself, which can lead to some interesting play patterns. But overall, a decently flexible card that I like recursion. I think general recursion, like pick a card, any card, like Battle Harden, is very strong, and I'm glad they're kind of shying away from that in this set with cards like this, cards like the glamour recursion that goes on the bottom, cards like I can't remember. It's the actor card that brings back the first card of your line. I can't remember any of the Shakespeare card names, honestly. I think it has 4 syllables, but I could be wrong. Anyways, I'm glad that they're making recursion a little bit more narrow, because it is super powerful. And the last card is Fire, Burn, and Cauldron Bubble, the last card of the triptych, featuring the best sister. We have, man, if I used my face in the thumbnail, I would have some amazing like reactions, except I don't do that, so oh well. 3 value, versatile, bat, 2 value boost, 3 copies. Immediately. So many immediatelys in this deck. Return a card in your discard pile to your cauldron. So this is kind of like it is almost exactly the same text as All Seem Familiar, albeit without the after combat effect. Very kind of like, gotcha, I'm going to cast a spell that you didn't think I could cast type of thing, where I see this as a very good card for setting up a surprise action gain attack on your next turn. You can play this, return a card from your discard pile to your cauldron, play the third symbol on your turn as an attack that you didn't recur, gain the action, and now you have 2 actions, a fresh slate. This helps you get 3 ingredients from 2 actions, which very efficient way to do that. And of course, you could potentially like combo it with Curious Familiar, return a card from your discard pile to your cauldron, and now that it's in your cauldron, return it to your hand. So, Mom, I want to get battle hardened. We have battle hardened at home, son. Battle hardened at home. The next card is Something Wicked This Way Comes. It's a scheme. Bat, 3 value boost, 2 copies. Cast any spell. Then cast a different spell. Do not discard any cards from your cauldron to cast these spells. So, I'm still not 100% clear on if you need to have the ingredients in your cauldron in order to cast the spell, or if you can just cast a spell. Because the text, cast any spell, to me reads, cast any spell, regardless of what you have in your cauldron. But then the do not discard any cards from your cauldron to cast these spells kind of makes me think you need the matching cards in your cauldron and you just don't discard them. But I would love a ruling clarification on this card at some future point. The difference is not super big, but definitely a super flexible card. Picking any 2, if you pick gain an action and then one of the other ones, you basically cast it for free. So it can almost be like a free ping, if you will. It is a powerful effect, but remember that like all 4 of these effects individually are not super strong on their own, but definitely the flexibility in choosing one of the, or 2 of the 4 is certainly very good. If you move a fighter and gain an action, you can kind of like pull someone close to you for free and then have 2 actions to attack them, which I really like. And then maybe after you attack them, you gain another action. So it sets up some pretty bonkers stuff. Very cool card. And the last card is one that we've all seen before, Prophecy. A scheme with a lizard. Boost value of 2, 2 copies. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. Put 2 of them in your hand and the other 2 back on top of your deck in any order. So this is the top deck card I was referring to with All Seeing Familiar, but these are 4 cards out of the 30 in your deck, so I don't know how often you're going to be able to draw the both of them together and use that combo, but Prophecy is very good in this deck, very thematic as well, just because it allows you to get a bunch of cards in your hand right away, be able to cast more spells immediately following that with multiple symbols, and of course you know what's coming next, which can also help with hurly-burly as well. You can put your opponent in a little bit of a pickle by maybe ensuring that like a 3 boost is on the top of your deck when you're going to attack. It's just a super solid card. This is just about the only card draw in your deck besides one of the effects on hurly-burly, which you don't get to choose, and the card draw built into your ability. So overall, I think the Sisters are fun to play as like the 4th time you play them. The first couple times, it's very much like you have training wheels on and you're going down the ski slope pizza all the way, just I don't want to fall, like just shaking. But I think once you get the hang of kind of the patterns with sequencing the different symbols, it gets a lot easier and a lot more kind of like you enter that flow state. Do I think they're going to be the best fighter in the game? I do not. I think the card effects you have are for the most part pretty toned down because the flexibility you have from the spell casting is phenomenal. And I think you have to have some really like solid play and some good interactions in order to come out ahead. My main concern is just like damage output necessarily, because besides pricking in my thumbs, you have stars align and double as like your big hitters, and then everything else is like you have 2 4s and then a lot of 3s, which I think it leads to like a less straightforward gameplay pattern than just I'm gonna hit you big. It's you have to rely on pings a lot to kind of like cover your bases in terms of damage and maybe close out the game. But you might not always have the symbols to do that, and that's where things can kind of go wrong. I do see them as very solid defensive fighters. They will not go down as easy as the Raptors, which is great. And I think if you can keep all 3 of them on the board for as long as possible, you should be able to leverage that positional advantage to do some really good things with the effects you have. I think they're going to be mid. I think they have enough going on to not be completely terrible, but I think at like a high level, the effects are not necessarily as good or easy to activate as like little red basket symbols, but you do have like added flexibility in the different effects you get from the symbols. But I'm going to be a little conservative and just say that the A tier eye test does not get passed for these fighters. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because not every single fighter needs to be completely meta breaking when they enter the scene. They're definitely going to be a lot of fun, and will definitely, like Shakespeare, reward the people that grind this character and figure out all the tricks you can do with them, because there is a lot of different like card interactions, the way you sequence them, things like that. That is absolutely phenomenal, and this character is dang cool. Probably my second favorite of the set, behind Titania. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Wayward Sisters. Please let me know what you think of them in the comments. Which sister is your favorite? Which spell is your favorite? And which triptych? I really hope that's a real word and what it's called, because I've said that like 5 times now this video. That'll be really embarrassing if I'm just speaking gibberish, but I speak gibberish all the time, so I guess that's nothing new for my viewers. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Rosie, for not doing something silly in the background of the video. And I hope you guys are having a fantastic reveal day / media embargo lifting day. I was able to interview the designer of this deck, and that video should be coming out later today after this video, or perhaps tomorrow. I'm speaking of the perspective of it's Wednesday. Maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday. Who knows? Anyways, thanks for watching. Those are the Wayward Sisters. Let's go. Slings and Arrows. Alrighty. I'll see you guys in the next first impressions video in the next set. Woohoo! So as always, like, subscribe, and yay!